Whistling 5 Anarchic Productions proudly presents Stumpy Sanderson's 1970s stories, as told by Andrew Brammer. Hello and welcome. The story you are about to hear is written and told using its original source materials, scribblings and scratchings from the scrawls of Stumpy, found within Stumpy Sanderson's time capsule, which was buried in 1979 and then unearthed in 2019. The story is told in the first person, as I, just like Stumpy, witnessed at first hand the momentous events which it recounts. So let's park up our Raleigh choppers and tomahawks and take a ride back to 1972 for the Incredible Shrinking Stumpy. On a Saturday morning in April 1972, the diminutively statured and scrubbing brush-haired Stumpy Sanderson increased his height by a good 4 inches. And this was achieved by his groovy and liberal parents buying him a hugely coveted and gleaming pair of magnificent new oxblood platform wedge shoes from Freeman, Hardy and Willis. And now, on the Sunday, Stumpy was wearing them on this, his first outing in these monumental items of footwear. As Stumpy and I sat in the rear luggage compartment of his dad's blue Vauxhall Victor estate car, with its large and clearly visible Dunstable Town FC sticker in the back window, both of us in our huge yacht sail-sized flared high-waisters and one-eyed Jack's jumpers, me wearing black monkey boots and Stumpy in his wedged platforms, we were keyed up with excitement. For we were on our way to Stumpy's uncle's and aunt's house, which meant we would shortly be seeing Stumpy's older cousin, Billy the Shrimp, who looked very similar to Stumpy in height and hair, and who had the same penchant for mischief as we did. Whenever we met up with Billy the Shrimp, great wayward adventures always ensued. Now, Stumpy's relations lived deep across the border in bandit country, Luton, their house being in one of the side roads at the top of a huge and sweeping steep road, over a mile long and with a 1 in 10 gradient, and from near the top of which you could not only look out over Luton, but also see into Dunstable's hallowed lands. And as Stumpy's dad's car sat at the red traffic lights at the foot of this huge steep road, Stumpy and I saw a massed gang of rough and tough-looking troglodytes loafing and larking about on the pavement. Older thugs wearing Levi jackets, Luton Town shirts and Doc Martens. A couple of them on bikes with large cow-horn handlebars on which they were performing wheelies and other stunts. As the light turned to green and the car began to make its chugging ascent, and with Stumpy's mum and dad busy and preoccupied in the front, listening to some prog rock on the 8-track tape recorder which Stumpy's dad had had specially installed, the fug of their Rothman cigarettes and the heady scent of patchouli oil filling our nostrils and corroding our taste buds, Stumpy and I couldn't resist the opportunity of pulling some gurning faces at these louts out of the estate car's rear window, as well as giving them some rude gestures. For the first few seconds, they just stared at us. But then, after one particularly rude sign, they suddenly started shouting and yelling, the two on bikes doing huge spinning wheelies before trying to set off in hot pursuit after us, the others chasing on foot with seething and furious faces, obviously hugely frustrated that they had nothing close to hand which they could hurl at us. For a few seconds, we were a bit worried that the car was not pulling away fast enough, particularly as the two on bikes, one with a sharp rodent face, the other with a visage that looked like a mashed up pie, were gaining rapidly. But as the car finally started to accelerate properly, we laughed at their poor progress, and, now safe in the knowledge that with the steep climb of the hill they would have no chance of pursuing us, we gave them some even more crude and coarse signs. When the car finally reached and turned into Stumpy's Relations Road, Stumpy and I then espied another gaggle of boys on the street corner, at the centre of which was Stumpy's cousin himself, Billy the Shrimp, who, with a posse of his mates, was standing crowded round in a circle and admiring something very large, gleaming and metallic that we could not quite get a view of. So, obviously not wanting to miss what was going on, we got Stumpy's dad to drop us off there and then. As soon as we got out of the car, we realised immediately why these boys were giving such looks of awed admiration. For at their centre was the most astonishing and incredible mechanical creation we had ever laid our small eyes on. It was a bike like no other, a customised construction of genius, and it was called a Raleigh Super Chopperhawk. We had never seen anything like it. A huge gleaming masterpiece of chromed precision. A bespoke cross between a Raleigh Chopper, a Raleigh Tomahawk, and a chopped down Harley Davidson, but specially sized and built for 9 to 12-year-old boys. It had a large Raleigh Chopper-sized back wheel, but with a far thinner and sleeker tyre than usual, covered by a bobbed mudguard. The long, padded and sprung high-back seat, which was especially designed to give rides to a passenger, was covered not in the usual leather or vinyl, but in a dark brown fur. The rear dragster hoop sat above the seat, and attached to the back of all this was a spare wheel. The frame itself had been beautifully sprayed in gleaming jet black, with the immortal words Raleigh Super Chopperhawk lettered on the side in embossed gold. The usual 3-speed gear mechanism had been replaced by an adapted 10-gear derailleur device, operated by a T-bar. But it was the front of the bike that was its most astonishing feature. The frame having been adapted and modified so that it now sported not the usual high-raised ape-hanger handlebars, but instead very short drag handlebars that were attached to huge, long, elongated forks that stretched out for many feet, at the end of which was a small front wheel, again with a tyre far thinner than normal. Like a parked, chopped-down hog, the bike stood on its kickstand. Stumpy and I whistled in admiration at this marvel of engineering. "Hi, Billy," we said. "This looks one heck of a machine," said Stumpy. "It is, cousin," piped Billy the Shrimp, wearing his flared Brutus jeans and a wholly Home Pride man jumper. "This is a specially customised Raleigh, crafted and developed by the great engineer here, Rob the Wrench." Billy gestured to his friend and sidekick, a stringy genius of a boy with a bright and intelligent face, who was wearing a pair of beige oil-stained overalls, a pair of brown hobnail boots, and who gave off a distinct mechanic's whiff of 3-in-1 oil. Tell them about it, Rob, urged Billy. With a shy and embarrassed humble grin, Rob the Wrench passed his permanently oil-stained hand through his slicked-back hair and proceeded to tell us how he had created the bike. How he had created it from the frames and wheels of Raleigh choppers, chippers, and tomahawks. How he had obtained the handlebars and then crafted the forks himself by adapting a pair purloined from a local scrapyard. How the masterwork had been adapted for ease and comfort, and would be suitable for long as well as short distance cruising. How he had engineered and overcome the normal Raleigh chopper-like problems of rolling resistance, speed wobbles, and involuntary wheelies. How the marvel had been specially customised and streamlined to be the fastest Raleigh from the chopper family on wheels. Incredible! A true work of genius, we said, nodding in admiration. Fancy a go? Said Rob the Wrench, although take it easy, as I'm still not 100% happy with the braking setup. And with that, our awful adventure was about to truly begin. Now, normally, because of our diminutive statures, riding a bike of this size would present a problem for Stumpy and me, with our feet being barely able to touch the floor, which is why we only usually rode Raleigh Tomahawks. However, that problem no longer existed for us, as Stumpy was now wearing his tenement block wedge platform shoes, and would thus easily be able to reach the floor. This naturally meant he would be the main rider. As the passenger, I could just sit behind Stumpy on the two-boy, large fur-padded back seat, with my legs a good few inches above the ground. We took our places, and, with the other boys parting to watch us, Stumpy carefully wheeled round, and we started to pull away, a la Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper in the film Easy Rider. Immediately, we could feel the power and precision of this black and chrome work of genius. It ran so smoothly and silently, the working mechanisms as if greased with lightning. We had never sat on anything like it. Every moving part working effortlessly in slick synchronicity. Slowly, we cruised to the end of the road, and then, with a graceful turn, circled round and headed back. Passing the boys, we looked like a pair of easy rider bikers. All we needed were shades. "We'll just go to this end and back," Stumpy said, and we headed back to the entrance of the road. But then, just as we approached, round the corner came two louts dressed in Levi jackets and Luton Town shirts, riding bikes with cow horn handlebars, one with a sharp rodent's face, the other with a visage like a mashed-up pie, the two thugs to whom we had earlier given signs of abuse. Before we had chance to take evasive action, they saw us and, not believing either their luck or this chance encounter, gave two enormous wheelies and began pedalling like maniacs towards us. "Oi, you little Herberts, wait till we get our hands on you two." Stumpy's nerve and mastery of our monstrous cruiser was magnificent. And as they headed towards us, he suddenly put on a great spurt of speed and raced straight between the two of them, for they had made the elementary mistake of leaving a large gap between themselves as they had pedalled furiously towards us. He performed a beautiful sweeping turn, and we headed out of the road, turning right onto the downward 1 in 10 gradient of the large road we had climbed in the car earlier. It was now that we experienced the true mechanical beauty of that customised Raleigh Super Chopperhawk. It flew, it sped, it sailed down that hill, faster and faster, faster than a rocket, faster than Bluebird, faster than Eddie Merckx. And such a comfortable ride, not the usual bumps and painful lurches when travelling downhill at such speed. The only sounds, the smooth whirring of the spokes, the hum of the wheels, the hissing-like noise of the rubber tyres on the pavement, the warm breeze whistling in our ears, and the occasional and very infrequent cars travelling up and down the hill. We were travelling so fast, it seemed as if we were in a time tunnel. Stumpy pedalling like a rhythmical fury, face set in intense concentration and determination. As we swept round the great curve of the first part of that hill, we now had a straightforward downward run ahead of us. Miraculously, there were no pedestrians on our side of the pavement, and I managed to take a quick look behind us and saw that the two thugs were still after us, but that we were leaving them trailing way behind in the distance. It was at this point, though, that those thugs were the least of our problems. For as we now arced round for the run down this steepest part of the hill, we both realised that we were travelling dangerously fast for such a slope. In fact, as if that were possible, it seemed as if we were gaining even more speed. Faster and faster we were going, warp factor 3, the few passing cars on the hill and the houses rapidly becoming a blur. We were travelling so fast that we were now experiencing rapid eye movement, our cheeks and facial muscles being pulled and distorted as if by G-force, the warm wind in our ears now a constant howl. "We need to slow down," I yelled to Stumpy. "I'll hit the brakes," he hissed, his voice barely audible amidst the whirring wheels, and so Stumpy hit them, with absolutely no effect. To this day, we still do not know what mechanical failure had caused the total malfunction of the Super Chopperhawk's braking system. Rob the Wrench had warned us at the outset to take it easy, and that he wasn't happy with the braking setup. Perhaps its workings had somehow been dislodged even more by the great speed we had been travelling. But for some reason, whatever pressure Stumpy was applying to the brake controls, neither the front nor the rear brake pads were touching either of the two spinning wheels. As we continued hurtling down that hill at breakneck speed, everything now a blur, we were travelling so fast that we prepared ourselves for grim death. But it was then, halfway down that 1 in 10 gradient road of terror, that Stumpy had a stroke of genius and performed one of the most ingenious and bravest acts I had ever seen. Setting himself steady, he suddenly lowered his little legs, at the end of which were those huge crepe-soled platform wedges, and, with great calculation, prepared for just the right moment to apply them to the hurtling manic conveyor belt of a pavement beneath us. "Steady! Steady! Shoes down!" he shouted, and then planted his platform shoes onto the hard pavement. An appalling and hideous scraping and scuffing noise immediately sounded as the crepe soles began their work and Stumpy began to apply pressure. "It's not working! Press harder!" I shouted. And Stumpy, grim face set, pushed even harder into his shoes, which were now acting like huge brake blocks. Then, just as the platform soles began to heat and smoke, the acrid choking smell of burning crepe blocking our nostrils, a trail of thickening black smoke now in our wake, we hurtled straight across the first crossroad. "Hold on!" yelled Stumpy, dodging a red Ford Cortina that honked its horn furiously at us. "It's working! We're slowing up!" And we were definitely slowing up. We were going to make it, although by now Stumpy could barely touch the floor, a good 3 inches of his platform shoes having been eroded away, consequently meaning he had had to shift forward to a seating position on the actual frame of the bike itself in order to continue the braking operation. But then, terribly, we realised that, while we may indeed be slowing up, we would now be facing an even worse fate than when we had first set out on that run of death down the hill. For as the road now levelled out, and the whirring wheels began their gradual diminuendo of ticking and slowing down, thick black smoke still billowing from Stumpy's shoes, straight ahead and staring at us was that gang of troglodyte thugs, astonished at the sight they were now looking at. Two boys astride the most extraordinary-looking customised bike they had ever seen, the main rider of which was wearing a pair of smoking, now thin-soled, shoes. And then, as they continued to stare, faintly at first, but then getting louder and nearer, came angry shouts on the wind from behind, from the two thugs who had been in hot pursuit. "Get 'em! It's those Dunstable boys from that car!" As we finally slowed up, and, painfully and with great difficulty, got off the bike, the two thugs who had been pursuing us screeched to a halt alongside us, and mashed-up Pie-Face greeted us with an evil smile. "Welcome to Luton, lads." And on that day in April, as we prepared to face our doom, desperately trying to figure out how we were going to worm our way out of this particular predicament and whatever horror awaited us, standing there in his smoking, no longer platform-soled shoes, the scrubbing brush-haired Stumpy Sanderson was now back to his original diminutive height. Thank you for listening to this episode of Stumpy Sanderson's 1970s Stories. And don't forget to listen out for Stumpy and Gang's next adventure. For further information on all things Stumpy Sanderson, please visit www.stumpysanderson.co.uk. And you can also check out the Stumpy Sanderson's 1970s Stories YouTube channel. But before we saddle up again on our Raleigh choppers and tomahawks, let's take a listen to the strange little song that was specially written by Stumpy to accompany this podcast's tale. This song is performed for us now by Stumpy Sanderson's 1970s acoustic archive. Let's rock!
In 71 we really got it on. 72 we were metal gurus. 73 Susie was the queen. 74 we rocked with Matzo More. In our platform shoes that made us look so tall. Our platform shoes higher than a wall. Our platform shoes, the coolest shoes of all. Our platform shoes that made us feel like dudes. And when we strolled down avenues and streets, groovers and peacocks stacked like the sweet heat in our platform shoes that made us look so tall. Our platform shoes, higher than a wall. Our platform shoes, the coolest shoes of all. Our platform shoes that made us feel like dudes. And when we strolled down avenues and streets, groovers and peacocks stacked like the sweet heat And when we stroll down avenues and streets, groovers and peacocks stacked like the sweet heat in our platform shoes. 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 Our platform shoes.